Wondering what's working in real estate right now? Jennifer Murtland is going to share with us exactly what she's doing that's helping her business take off. All right, Jen, this is one I have been excited to talk to you a little bit about. Just so if anybody doesn't know, this is Jennifer Murtland. Jennifer's with Team Synergy out of Cincinnati, Ohio. She's also the host of the Real Estate Fight Club. And Jen, as we've talked a little bit before this and in the past, we talked a little bit about kind of obviously some of the things that have helped you grow. What I love to do a lot of times is really just go back, because I think there's probably a lot of people that are either starting the business or their business is stalled and they're like, what do I need to do now? So let's go back and talk about when you first started. What were some of the things you did initially to gain momentum?
That was a long time ago. Well, actually, before I was a real estate agent, I was a real estate investor, and we used to wholesale short sales. So we would negotiate, we would get the notice of default list because it's public information in our county in Cincinnati. And I would go knock on doors. And so I would knock on the door and I'd be like, hey, has the bank talked to you about a short sale? And they would say no. And then they would invite me in, and I got into some weird situations, but that's a different podcast. So I started my career off door knocking, and then the bank, and I really like door knocking. It's something I still do to this day. It definitely works, getting like face to face with people and talking to them. And then when the banks, they kind of like stopped allowing wholesaling to happen. They didn't like it. There was this whole thing around, is it illegal? Is it not? It's not illegal. I'm not a lawyer, but it's not illegal. And so I was like, and they required them to be listed. So I was like, you know what? I'll just get my real estate license so that we can list these. And that's, I kept door knocking, started cold calling also. Actually, my co-host, Monica Weekly, on our Real Estate Fight Club podcast, she was my first coach. And she was like, you should cold call. And I was like, that sounds awesome. And so I started doing that, and I still do it today.
That's so great. Hey, I will say this, Jennifer, I'm excited going forward as we're finally coming out of all this stuff we've been in to get back out there door knocking, working with people and being face to face with people. So let's talk about that, because maybe somebody's out there and they hear door knocking, but they don't know what that looks like. What would a typical, if you were doing that right now and you were walking up to the door, what would that look like for you? What would it sound like?
Okay, so for me, like, I look like a very like suburban mom. So I can pretty much door knock anywhere. So I just knock on the door. I say, hey, my name's Jennifer Murtland. I'm a real estate agent. And then I state why I'm there. So I'm usually going to a particular neighborhood for a reason, right? Hey, I was just meeting with your neighbor or whatever. Or, hey, we just sold your neighbor's house, or we're just getting ready to list your neighbor's house. Have you thought about selling? What I'm looking for is just something short, sweet. Have they thought about selling? Do they know anybody that's looking to move into the neighborhood? Whatever. It doesn't matter. Just like something brief. They don't care what company you're with. None of that crap. They're not thinking about real estate, any of that. Now, a little tip for people that don't like look like me is like, if you're a man, basically, a lot of more people will answer a door for a female than they will a male. So if you're a male, you should wear like jeans or khakis and like a polo of some kind, and then carry like a gift bag and put your flyers or whatever you're doing in there. And I would just do like black and white flyers, because you're just going to throw them away anyway. And then you're more likely to get you're more likely to get answered.
That is a great idea for guys, because we do run into that, So from that standpoint, if the conversation starts, how do you gather their contact info to keep in touch with them? And did you do what was the follow-up you did after you met somebody?
Dude, I'm so bad at follow-up, but so I would just be like, when the conversation, like, if it went somewhere, right? If they were looking, there's been many times where they're like, well, actually, we were thinking about selling. And then I would just like come in, right? Or I would schedule an appointment for like to come back in 2 days or a day or whatever it is. And then I would just ask them, hey, what's your best email? What's your best phone number? You just ask them. And people don't ever say, oh my God, it makes me insane. Never say, would you mind? Oh, well, maybe I do mind. No, what is it?
Yes. I'm completely, just be upfront. And just ask for what you want. When you ask, you'll receive. It's just
Exactly.
pretty straightforward. So, that's one thing I used to do when I was door knocking back in the day.
Mhm.
I did a lot of where I would just be like, I would just ask them, and I'd say, listen, I love keeping in touch with everybody in
Mhm.
the neighborhood. I would love to just keep in touch and just let you know what's going on in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
What's the best way for me to keep in touch with you? And
Yeah.
they would say, well,
Perfect.
email. Great.
Great.
Okay,
What is
great.
it?
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. So it's
Or
just
you could
gathering
just be
that and then
like, I
building.
send out a neighborhood newsletter that will keep you updated on the value of your house, right? Because that's about them. And be
Right.
like, what's your best email?
Right.
What's your phone number? And they'll give it to you. I mean, I didn't
Absolutely.
know to do that, so I didn't say that because I
Mhm.
don't lie, like
Yes.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I
It's
did a
it's
lot
an
of.
unfortunate thing, actually. It's had some bad but yeah, so it's like I'm not going to tell them that because I'm not going to do that. But if I see
Yeah.
if there's motivation, I will set the next step. If
Right.
there's no motivation, then I won't. And I
Yeah.
figure I'll get back to around them when I call.
Yeah. And we did a lot of too. I would do where I would go out there, and if I got the cell phone number, then I would take and just do a quick video. And it'd be just
Oh,
like, hey, it
that's
was great
great.
meeting you guys today. Just want to say thanks for taking my call. Thanks for the information. Thanks for keeping in mind if you
Yeah.
know of somebody that would be interested in the house we're getting ready to list. And
Yeah, you
just
actually
touch them that
talked
way.
about doing the bomb bomb videos on our podcast that we did together.
Yeah.
So that's a good tip. I like
Yeah,
it.
it helps a ton, from a standpoint of just making that connection deeper,
Yeah,
driving the roots in the
right.
relationship a little more. So, well,
Exactly.
let's talk about this because I mean, obviously, you're very focused on listing side, which is the way the
Yes.
business should be done.
Well, it's
And
mostly because I don't like driving and I always get lost. So I literally cannot take a buyer. Like literally cannot.
let me say this: if the rest of the real estate industry had that deficit, I think they would do better in their business because that would
For
force
sure.
them to focus on the right side of the business, which is the listing side.
Well, and plus I like to travel. So I was gone for over a year and still ran a real estate business. And the only way I could do that was because I don't put fires in my car.
That's great. That's so good. Well, let's talk about then kind of that way of, obviously you've been doing this a little while now. Let's talk about some of the mainstays for lead generation for those sellers. What's really worked for you over the years and something that has just been consistent for you?
So there's a lot of like shiny objects in real estate and it's good and bad. Like there's a lot of ways to be successful, which makes it a little complicated because you don't really know what's authentically you. But my tip for people is to find two ways that really work for you. So for me, I like time efficiency. Like I love it. And the most time efficient thing to do to generate leads is to cold call. So now I've expanded it. And like, if I know it's their number, I will send them a text because not everybody answers their phone. But like I still cold calls to this day. I mean, 12 years later, I still do it every day. I love it. I think it's a great way to meet people. Most people are nice. A lot of people hate cold calling, so they're not getting calls. I do for sale by owners, expires, the one expired, but
Right.
like old expireds, like all
Yeah.
that for rent by owners. I mean, there's a billion people to call, just random people, just
Yeah.
calling. It's great.
Yeah. I completely agree. I will tell you, we've been having a lot of success also with 6 to 24-month expired listings that haven't resold just because they've already raised their hand and said they want to sell. They just have the right agent,
Exactly.
And so that is tremendous. From that standpoint, let's go into the nuts and bolts because if somebody's out there and they know they need to be making calls, but they don't know how to get the numbers. I mean, I know that there's a number of different ways out there. Share with everybody what you use, if you don't mind, and maybe anything else that's out there.
So I have tried all of them. The one that I always go back to that I really, really, really love is Vulcan 7. They are the best. I mean, they have the best numbers. And I don't know, I kind of understand a little bit about how it works, but even the wrong numbers are still good. They're still like the cousin of the person that you're trying to get a hold of.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you'll get like 5 numbers.
Right.
It's crazy, but yeah, I love Vulcan 7. And I have like a coupon code if anybody wants it where they can try it for like $50. Yeah.
Yes, that'd be great. We'll get that stuff in the show notes and for everybody as well, if you'll send that to me. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about kind of that. What are you focused on right now? I mean, we've had a shift obviously in the market. Is it still the same thing or have you modified some things or what are you doing right now?
I mean, a little bit, right? So like sometimes we have buyers. Sometimes because we've made them homeless, right?
Mhm.
So
Right.
those are my favorite buyers. And I promised them from the beginning that we will never had anybody that's actually been homeless. So we will find them a house.
Right.
So that you can't, in this market, you can't wait for things to come on the market. So we've been circle prospecting and door knocking, and that's worked great. I mean, in the last couple of months, we've gotten 3 deals under contract just from that. I mean, it's been awesome. So yeah, I mean, we know what that is, right? So you pick the neighborhood that they want to be in, you call, and then I door knock, and then I call again. My purpose is to get a hold of them. So I'm pretty intense about getting a hold of them, but it works.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's, if somebody's out there and they're wanting to generate listings and they're either newer or they've been focused on buyers and they're beating their head against the wall right now.
I'm calling it buyer fatigue.
I would completely agree. I think this is a perfect strategy, and we've used this as well, where we're taking the buyer, not as bait, but I mean, really, we're working for the buyer, and we're just literally going and we're calling and say, listen, I'm not interested in listing your house. I've got someone that wants to be in your neighborhood,
right?
And they've missed out on a couple places, and so they're in a place where they may be willing to pay a premium. Have you heard of any of your neighbors that might be considered selling?
Yeah.
And we're using that, and listen, they'll tell you if they're willing, if they're thinking about selling. Yeah. So that's been great. And if you took everything away from me and just gave me a phone, I think that's the one tool I would want to have.
That's all I have is my phone and my computer. I mean, that's how I was able to travel around everywhere, because that's all I have. I have a headset. So I would be cold calling in a workspace in Morocco outside, because at 8:00 Eastern, it's 2 o'clock in Morocco. So I'm I'm going to be outside, and it's loud it's loud there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was in Marrakesh, downtown Marrakesh. It is loud, and people, they didn't hear me. And all I have was my computer, my phone, and my headset. That's all you need. That's it.
Yeah. And you can do it from anywhere.
Anywhere, obviously.
Right.
I did it from Japan. I did it from Mexico, everywhere. It was awesome.
That is incredible. That's incredible. Let me say this, because you're a pretty interesting person. Jim, from this standpoint, you've got a bachelor's degree in psychology and an MBA.
Yep.
That's a little bit different. What would you say? Which of the two would you say has been more useful in your real estate business?
That is a really loaded question. So when I'm recruiting agents, it's the psychology degree.
Yes.
But when I'm dealing with sellers, it's definitely the MBA, because I understand numbers and I understand math. And I think that's a fatal flaw of many real estate agents, is they don't understand math. And this is people's largest asset. So it's you have got to know how to do a net sheet, and you have to be able. Most of my clients are business owners. So I run my business like a business. So when we have a similar communication pattern, they find it so much easier to do business with me that they cannot do it with anybody else.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. I think the biggest asset an agent has is their ability to communicate what's going on in the marketplace and how that affects those owners.
Yes.
Because they really could care less what's happening over in ABC community if they live in XYZ.
They don't care.
So it's the ability to give them the pertinent information in a timely way that's easy for them to understand. That's the way, in my opinion, people are winning.
But in order to know that, we have to ask them questions. So we go through a pretty lengthy process coming to their house, a pre-qualification process. I have a partner. His name's Alan. He's the best. Everybody should have an Alan, just not my Alan. But so he goes through the pre-qualification. We ask about 20 different questions. I can send that to you too if you want. I'm sure you have one too. But it's then they know by the time we get there, we're walking out with the paperwork. Right. Because I don't like to drive. So I don't want to drive all the way there and not get any paperwork. I don't even know where I'm going.
That's right. Yes, that's good. So, Monica, so I'm sorry, I was thinking about Monica, your co-host there. Sorry about that, Jen. When we were talking a little bit earlier, we were talking a little bit about how the market shifted a little bit, but it stayed the same. Yeah. As we're wrapping this up, what's something you're super excited about right now in the business that we're seeing where opportunities are? Is there anything in particular that stands out to you right now?
I think right now what I'm really excited about is I like how real estate is changing. It's nerve-wracking, but it's also very exciting. So I think a couple of things will happen. I will think that as some of these big companies will start to hire agents as employees, those agents will be more customer service based agents, more transactional agents. It will give the rest of us that own our business, like we run it like a business, I think we will actually have to know more as agents. We will have to be more well-rounded. We will have to understand investments and not like your financial planner, but we'll need like a bigger team, like a financial planner, like a lawyer, like all these things. And we'll have to understand a little bit more about everything. But I think even though their commissions will go down, I think ours will go up.
I agree. I think it is a separation. All the disruptions right now are a separation of the wheat and chaff.
Which we've needed for so long. The barrier to entry to being a realtor is way too freaking low. It makes me insane.
I agree completely. And I think I think the market's going to take care of what that's not happened to this point. I think the market's going to take care of it, in my opinion. So Jennifer, let's just, and as wrapping up, if somebody has a referral in Cincinnati, in Northern Kentucky that they're thinking about, how's the best way to get in touch with you? And also then if you don't mind, well, go ahead and give me that, and then I want to go to something else also.
Well, I'm a phone girl, so please call or text me, 513-400-1691.
So let's finish this up with the Real Estate Fight Club. Tell people what they can expect if they tune into your podcast, if you don't mind.
A fight. No, I'm just kidding. So my co-host and I, Monica Weekly, we battle about topics. So these are topics like the biggest one, the one that really gets people off the rails is, should you give client gifts? I'm a hell no, and she's a hell yes. So we fight about that a lot. And then we'll usually have an agent that's a guest. That's like the tiebreaker. Now, honestly, she normally wins, but like, I don't care because we do a lot of business. I don't care. People.
That is so good. Well, listen, I would highly encourage everybody to check out Real Estate Fight Club. And if you've got somebody heading Jennifer's way, please reach out to her. And Jen, thanks for everything. Thanks for all of this. Guys, I hope you got something out of this. I know you did. Reach out, let Jennifer know how much you appreciate her, how much she was open with us today, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.